Hello and welcome back to Bitesize Boxing. So I wanted to talk a little bit about Boxer today and really what is going on with Boxer. So this is a question that is on a lot of people's lips at the moment, including managers of fighters under Boxer, such as Billy Nelson, who came out just the other day and said that he's been trying to hear back from Ben Shalom for 10 weeks and he's heard nothing back and he's quite concerned about it. Now, you've also got rumours coming out saying that apparently Joshua Buatsi is very close to signing with Frank Warren. You've obviously had Sky announce that they have ended their partnership with Boxer, so from June 30th, I believe, their deal has now ceased and lapsed, and they will not be renewing with Boxer. So what is going on with Boxer? We did hear from Ben Shalom a few weeks ago that we'd be hearing more news in due course, but many weeks have been by and we've heard nothing in due course. So there have been rumours circulating that they would end up with a terrestrial broadcaster such as ITV or BBC, which is a bit left field, but there we are. I think to most people we kind of assume that they would end up on DAZN, as everyone else seems to be. Of course, DAZN already have Eddie Hearn, they already have Golden Boy, they have people like smaller promoters like GBM. They've obviously recently gone and got Frank Warren as well on board with Queensberry, so it would stand to reason that you would assume they would end up on DAZN, but that clearly isn't the case. And I've actually just been scrolling through some of Boxer's fighters and you kind of forget that they actually have a relatively decent stable. It's been a funny one the last 4 years with Boxer because although they have actually on paper a half decent stable, because you've had a mixture of sort of promoters not necessarily being that welcoming to work with Boxer for whatever reason that may be, it means that we haven't seen the matchups that we wanted to see. But one other thing that I've heard other people raise, and I felt completely the same, is that there is something about Boxer's production that feels, and I wouldn't be the first person to say this, but it feels almost overly sanitized. I don't know if it's a mixture of, say, the panel and the production value, and maybe the commentators and the punditry. I don't know, but there's something about Boxer shows that in recent years have just been, I don't know, not in the nicest possible way, not the easiest watch. And I found, because one thing that you've also had is because there's been this kind of rivalry in the UK, if Boxer or Eddie Hearn or Frank Warren or whoever puts on a show, there's a lot of clashing. And as a result of that, if I find there's, say, a show that's on DAZN one weekend and it's at the same time as a Boxer show, even if I'm maybe more interested in some of the fighters on the Boxer show, I'll tend to find myself watching the DAZN show just on the basis that I know what I'm getting with DAZN. And although, so you can criticise some of the, the commentary team or whatever the case may be, there's something with the DAZN production value that you know you're going to get that you just don't get with Boxer. And again, other people have referred to it as being very sanitised, and that's the best way I can describe it. It's weird. It's almost sillily squeakily clean. Do you know what I mean? I understand that, boxing wants a legitimacy and wants to be professional in a way, but there's something about, I don't know what it is, it's hard to kind of quantify it, I can't really describe it, but there's something about Boxer's product that just feels very, as I said, just sanitized, and it makes it very, very difficult to watch. But looking at Boxer's stable in front of me here, we forget they've actually got quite a good stable. And because of those matchups, we just haven't seen the matchups we've wanted to see. But on paper, they have a decent enough stable to have been able to put on some good fights. So they still have the likes of, let me have a look here. We've got Chris Eubank Jr., Ben Whittaker, Adam Azim, Caroline Dubois, Vida O'Reilly, Callum Simpson, Chris Billam-Smith, Fraser Clark, Richard Riakporhe, Joshua Buatsi, Dan Aziz, Martin Bacoli, Jamie TKV, Tyler Denny, among others. I mean, that's a pretty good stable. And yet and still, they're still struggling for a broadcaster. So it is an interesting one. You do wonder why that is. You also wonder why there's been so much hesitancy from other promoters to work with Boxer. Is it a case of other promoters colluding to freeze Boxer out? That is entirely possible. Is there an issue do people take issue with the way Boxer do their business? I don't know. I'm not in the know, so I couldn't possibly comment. But it's a strange one because you look at that that repertoire of fighters on paper, and it's a very, very good stable. And it's a shame, really, because a lot of these fighters are having their careers held up, and you know, the likes of Dan Aziz, Martin Bakole, Jamie TKV, these are all fun fighters who I want to see active and I want to see in good fights. In particular, you've got people like Chris Eubank Jr., who's of course a household name in the UK, and of course there's still kind of question marks as over to, are we going to see that Conor Ben rematch? But you can imagine that the up in the air nature of this whole Boxer deal, that's not going to speed up proceedings if there is going to be a potential rematch. So it's a shame. Hopefully we do get a conclusion to this sooner rather than later. You've also obviously got people like Ben Whittaker, who I'm not as high as on Ben Whittaker as some people, but I will admit, you know, he is a big name in the UK and he is someone I want to see and I want to see active. So again, people like him and Adam Azim, I don't want to see these guys stagnate because their promoters going through promotional issues. So hopefully, if Boxer isn't going to find a home on a decent broadcaster before long, these guys can get out of their deals and they can sign with, you know, either a Frank Warren or an Eddie Hearn, and we can see these guys active again. But what do you guys think? I'd be very interested to know, because as I say, it's all a bit of a strange one. No one seems to know much of anything as what's going on. Is there some skullduggery going on? I mean, what do you guys think? I'd be very interested to know. It's definitely a strange one. But yeah, the radio silence aspect of it is pretty peculiar. But yeah, you let me know what you think. I'll be very interested to know. You take care, guys. Thank you very much. Cheers. Thank you.